It's Coach Cal, and I'm here to present to you the Flexingtons, presented by Richie Lanza. Go Big Blue!
Friday, February 2nd. Big Blue Nation was shaking. Richie Lanza checking back in for another edition of the Flexingtons. Not just a sad episode covering this UK loss. Lots to get off my chest, of course, and we'll start off with that. But our Cats have been officially named as NBA reserves, and we got to cover that, of course. And we'll get into that towards the end of the show, and then we got the Tennessee preview to finish. It's funny probably hearing back prior episodes to the last two games with my betting advice, because prior to tip, we find out 2 games ago there's no Rob, and then last game versus Florida we find out no DJ, no Justin Edwards. Honestly, when I found out about this injury news, I totally flipped and went the other way around. I took the under for Kentucky's team total and the under for the game total. And it was looking great, and it was supposed to cash. Of course, if you know what happened at the end of the game, shouldn't have even made it to overtime, right? Anyways, let's get into the game. So, coming into the game, what is the number one thing we're supposed to take care of? Stopping Will Clayton Jr. We've seen how dangerous he was in Gainesville January 6th in the first half, shooting efficient, wide open threes, and looking automatic. And he did the same thing, if not more, at Rupp, because he had 2 halves of great shooting. And it's kind of crazy all the open looks he got. Of course, he took some tough shots contested. But Will Clayton Jr., man, for him to have that type of performance in Rupp, it's a memorable one. You don't have a lot of SEC guys that really come in and take care of business at Rupp. We usually only lose in Rupp to really good, well-rounded teams. This was a bad Florida team. This was a Florida team on the brink of not even making the tournament. This could be the right direction for them if they can finish strong in SEC play. First quadrant 1 win for Florida in the last 2 years. And it's embarrassing, right? I mean, no excuses, of course. Not having DJ was huge for rotation purposes, for defensive purposes, etc. Reed had to pretty much play the whole game. And we're going to get on Reed. Lots to get on with Reed. But let's just finish up the narrative, right? So finding out there was no Justin Edwards, I was kind of relieved. Don't really have an update on his injury. It's not that I don't care. It's just kind of mysterious how last game before Florida, he was quote-unquote banged up. So that's why he didn't start, and Adu took his starting role. And now this game, he couldn't even play. And there's a small sequence where the camera zooms in on DJ and Justin sitting on the bench. And Justin looked like he was on good vibes. He was smiling, cracking a joke to DJ. It was the most happy I've ever seen him on the bench as a Kentucky Wildcat. And it's the one game he's not active. Regardless, it seems like he's in good spirits. We're going to speak on perhaps a key player not being in good spirits and hopefully getting that on the right track. Let's get into it this game, man. I don't even know where to start. So let's just look at our plus minuses. I mean, the most important guy to speak on, of course, is Ugo. I mean, for him to show up every game now, really proving why he deserves to start, earning the starting role over Aaron Bradshaw this game, he really showed out. Even though he finished with -5, he had 13 points, 16 rebounds, 2 steals, 8 blocks, 5 for 6 from the line. And let me point out, after seeing him shoot free throws in Gainesville, compared to then and now, which was a little under a month, for whatever reason, Ugo looks comfortable at the line. Ugo's stroke looks smooth, and he looks like, he looks like he's really comfortable at the line. And on his 6th free throw, the one that he actually missed, which was a big free throw, prior to him shooting it, they show up the stat that he's 5 for 5 from the game, and you see him smirking. And I was like, uh-oh, and then he missed it. I mean, free throws are honestly a problem for us every year. And no, I don't expect for us to go 100% every game, but there's just too many guys splitting free throws, right? And obviously, there's probably a lot of different opinions on how the end of the game in regulation was played out, timeouts being held, etc. We'll really break down that last play. Let's just fast forward now. We're at the end of the game, right? And man. Here we go. I knew exactly what was happening as it was happening. As soon as I seen as soon as I seen Reed inbounding the ball, we're up 2. I understood why he was taking the ball out. I'm not mad at that. He's the best passer on the team. Normally that's DJ Wagner's role, right? Because he's the inferior free throw shooter to Reed, to Antonio. So Antonio, of course, V-cuts to the ball and is denied and pretty much cornered and not an option to pass the ball to. Rob is right there. Rob gets the ball, and Rob wants to go to the line. Rob gets fouled, hits the first one. At the end of the game, on the post-game show, Cal said he didn't want to call a timeout there to speak on the next defensive possession to ice out his own player. Rob looked comfortable in his first shot. It was money. I'm not mad at not calling a timeout there. But, of course, Rob misses the shot. Only up by 3 opposed to 4. And who else but Will Clayton hits the clutch pump fake with barely any time left, getting Reed to leave his feet, knocking down the 3 to force overtime. And the rest is history. We couldn't get a bucket in OT. Rob cramped up in OT and had to sit out for the last 2 minutes minus like a minute. He came back in with a minute 09, I believe. Shout out the airplane. And this man, we really had no DJ and no Rob in overtime. Antonio went ghost in overtime. Antonio did nothing in overtime. And you would think with no DJ and with no Rob, the senior is going to take over when you add the fact that Trey Mitchell was having arguably his worst game as a Cat. And side note, heartbreaker, but I'll just share with y'all. I had a 5-player prop parlay, and all I needed was 4.3 fantasy points from Antonio, which equals like either 3 points and a rebound, 2 rebounds and a bucket, 4 points, whatever it was. I was sweating at the end of regulation, kind of hoping for overtime, just so I can cash this bet and Kentucky can take care of business in overtime. 2 birds, 1 stone, best of both worlds. And the opposite actually happened, and Antonio just couldn't get it done for me in overtime. Couldn't get it done for us. He went ghost. I rewatched the game after watching it completely live the first run, and he touched the ball less than a handful of times in overtime. And once Rob went out, I kind of went optimistic, not really for the game. I kind of felt like we were going to lose. You got Trey Mitchell missing a free throw in OT, and just we look flat out there. We look tired, especially Reed, right? Reed played 44 minutes, which is just insane. Pretty much the whole game. And defensively, especially watching it back the second time after knowing the result, after knowing what to look for and what to key in on, it kind of shocked me how bad of a defender Reed really was. These Florida guards are honestly, they're not starting on any Blue Bloods. I mean, maybe a UConn can start, what's his name, Pullen, or possibly Clayton Jr. But besides that, I mean, I really was not impressed with this Florida team. And if you remember when I called into the post-game show when we beat them in Gainesville, I kind of said I wasn't really impressed with the team. I can't believe they were in it. And Unfortunately, we pretty much looked past Florida. I feel like we were getting ready for Tennessee. DJ tweaked his ankle in practice. Cal did say last week he was going to amp up practice, scrimmage longer, harder, and these guys just got to get ready, and the only way they can get better is if they play. So practice is getting tougher, and that's where DJ got hurt. That's where, unfortunately, we lost our most dangerous guard, honestly. Antonio's more of a forward / guard. And I'm just disappointed. And 37 minutes, 19 points for Antonio Reeves. It's a normal game. We just needed more from you. A day we didn't have a future NBA player in our rotation with the ball in his hands. It put a big amount of pressure on Reed's shoulders. There were barely any sequences that Reed did not bring the ball up. He was the primary quarterback of our offense. And I'm just disappointed. This is one of those games that we know we blew it. At home, sold out crowd, right? Multiple top 10 teams are coming off a loss. And now we're looking at a position, if we lose to Tennessee, we're going to drop big in the rankings. And we're also going to drop big in Joe Lunardi's rankings. And unless you're new here, I don't really care for Joe Lunardi and his rankings until SEC tournament time. It just changes so much. There's so many variables. There's so many different teams and different outcomes that I don't even waste time looking at it. But you do hear other people who cover Kentucky speak on it, so that's why I do hear it. But it's not something I'm worried about. I feel like this team is obviously still a contender. Our defense needs to get better. Not having DJ is something we can kind of hang our hat on. Not similar to UNC Wilmington, because we should have won that game regardless, but we're 0-2 with no DJ now. And it can be Florida, a team that's not ranked, a team that's a mid-SEC towards the bottom team, or a UNC Wilmington. If we don't have DJ, make sure you're not betting on Kentucky. I can tell you that right now. And I felt like a genius right before Will Clayton hit that shot to push overtime for correctly taking the under, for correctly taking the team under, and for correctly not taking the line and just taking Kentucky money line. I felt like a savant. I felt like I was him. And then all of a sudden, goes into overtime, and then all of a sudden, Antonio Reeves drops the ball for me. I was looking at almost a $2,000 payout. You hate to see it. We're still up if you're keeping track at home. No sweat here, but I don't see myself really touching this game on Saturday. Unless we're underdogs, which I don't see happening, but there's a small chance for like a 2-point dog. Let's see if we got a line right now. Probably not, but we'll check. Yeah, no line yet. But to finish up on the game, the only thing I wish we would have done different is once Reed seen Antonio get denied on the inbounds when we're down 2, where Rob got fouled and went to the line and split. I just wish we called a timeout there. Figure out a way to get Antonio or Reed the ball. And you can do that with Reed inbounding the ball as well with a quick pass to him. Regardless, no shade to Rob. I just feel like Reed and Antonio are just so automatic that I wish that happened, Even Cal could have called a timeout. I did just say Reed called a timeout once he seen Antonio was being denied. Regardless, man, we got to move on. We can't dwell on this loss no more. And this is going to be one of those examples whenever an SEC team comes into Rupp and they're unranked, that we have to take them serious. And if we're healthy, we should beat them. But if we're not healthy, it's all hands on deck. And before we close out, shout outs to Jordan Burks, right? Man's haven't played a minute in SEC play yet. And he played some valuable minutes for us in the first half. This was something I manifested last episode. It's kind of funny it happened right afterwards. But he was playing the 4 role opposed to the 3, which I was suggesting. His defense, his effort was there. Trey Mitchell was cold at the time. So he found himself giving Jordan Burks an opportunity. We were hearing a lot of high praise from Jordan in practice, more recently from Cal. He finally got his chance, and I do think he will find himself on the floor again, and I know he's going to give it his all. Similar to Adu, he's somebody is going to give it his all. He knows he's on a short leash. His minutes are optional, and whenever his name is called, he'll be ready. And I was really happy to see how great he played. I mean, he didn't do too much statistically, but the eye test never fails, and Jordan Burks is still locked in, and he hasn't mentally checked out. But for this game, I kind of teased it earlier, was the first time I'm seeing bad body language, bad demeanor, ego from a cat, and it was Aaron Bradshaw. Aaron Bradshaw has been having foul trouble early on ever since he's been back and healthy. This game, Coach Cal promoted Ugo, gave him the starting role, and gave him well majority of the minutes of the game. But again, Aaron Bradshaw found himself in foul trouble again, found himself cursing on national television, not caring about how he looks, not just for himself, but for the school too. You got to remember, this is Kentucky, right? You got to move a different way. You got to lead by example. And I wasn't seeing that from Aaron Bradshaw this game. And obviously, unless you haven't played a sport, it's frustrating when you get into foul trouble, when it's not going your way, when it seems like the refs are out to get you. Cal did say at the end of the game he wished he played Aaron Bradshaw more. Before he even got into foul trouble, he feels like him and Big Z can play next to each other. Him and Ugo can play next to each other, right? That's going to be an interesting lineup to see. I'm looking forward to the mixed matches that Aaron Bradshaw is going to get offensively. And I'm not saying I want him to be shooting threes, but he's going to find himself playing the 4, where we play 4 out, 1 in, and he's going to have open looks. And if he knocks down that first shot, it opens so much opportunity for him. 1, to stay on the court. 2, for the defender to close out now, and that can lead to a pump fake easy dunk. And I do think we can see what we're expecting from Aaron Bradshaw, the lottery pick, the top center in the freshman class this year. He has been a little underwhelming, but I still think he's adjusting to the game. I was noticing a little chemistry issues with him and Rob. Not bickering on the court, but kind of Rob correcting him and kind of telling him what he's looking for out of him. And that's something that should be taken care of by now. That's something that should have been covered in practice. And I'm noticing everything. I'll probably watch the game again before the Knoxville game because I'll have the time to. I'm not going to give away, but I'm type nervous for this Tennessee game, especially if there's no TJ. To finish off, let's just go over some numbers. Big Z didn't play too much this game. You would think that with Trey and Aaron Bradshaw having such a quiet game, that Big Z would have had an opportunity, but unfortunately he didn't really see the floor too much. Especially, I don't think he's seen the floor at all in the second half, now that I'm thinking about it. No, he didn't. 5 minutes, 1 point, split free throws, 2 rebounds, 0 for 1 from the field. Big Z was quiet. And looking at the box score now, Jordan Brooks only played 2 minutes, but it felt like 6 minutes to me. But anyways, moving on to Aaron Bradshaw in just 9 minutes, 2 points, 1 block, 0 rebounds, 1 for 2 from the field. And oh wow, I did say he got in foul trouble. He didn't. I'm thinking of the game prior. Yeah, Aaron Bradshaw should have played more, and Cal did state that. I hope that that got back to Aaron if he didn't tell him personally. And he just stays focused mentally because we need him. And I already know versus Tennessee, he's going to be playing well more than 9 minutes. Next, Adu Thero. 15 minutes, 7 points, 2 rebounds, 1 assist, 1 steal, 1 block. 1 for 1 from deep, 0 for 1 from the line. You can't do that, man. Finally, the one time you finish with contact, you can't officially get the and one and knock down that free throw. It's unfortunate, man. I've been critiquing Adu not being able to finish, being great at attacking the rim and drawing contact, but never being able to finish. And, if he hits that free throw, who knows what happens at the end of the game. There's just too many free throws that we could point at, right? Of course, Rob's split was huge, but Trey missed a big one in overtime. Big Z, when Big Z got to the line, he didn't look comfortable at all. He looked nervous, and I don't know what's going on upstairs with Big Z, but something looked off, and I wasn't surprised at all when he missed that free throw. I don't know what it's going to take if we have to just run on a treadmill for an hour and then shoot free throws and hit a certain percentage, and if you fail, you got to do it again. I don't know what it's going to take. It's frustrating, though, because these are supposed to be the top D1 players, and we can't hit free throws. As a team, we missed 4 free throws. No, we didn't. We missed 6 free throws. 64%. It's just unacceptable, man. It's unacceptable. I feel like whenever we miss more than 4 free throws a game, it's just too much. And we can't go a game where we only miss 2. It's unfortunate. I know you can be tired, but it's all about repetition, man. And you gotta get that. You gotta get those shots up in practice. I'm not saying we're not doing that. It's just frustrating, man. 10 for 26 from 3, 38%. They were 42%. We shot 44% from the field. They shot 41. Both had 9 turnovers. They out-rebounded us by 2, which is actually one thing we could look at a positive. This is the second best rebounding team in the nation, and we were right there with them. We battled. 14 blocks versus their 6. Both had 6 steals. They had 3 more fouls than us. I can't talk about this any longer. Let's switch up the energy. And unfortunately, we lost our 8-game streak versus Florida in football and basketball combined. Had to come to an end. I mean, we would have probably predicted it would have happened in football to end the streak, but it was in Rupp for basketball, and you hate to see it. Big shout outs to all of our Kentucky Wildcats named officially NBA All Stars. And this year, we're 7 deep. Just think, last year we were 4 deep. This year we're 7 deep. And on top of that, we got some cats that got snubbed as well. And let's get into it. First, flowers must be given out before we speak on who's been snubbed. And of course, we've covered it already. Just a reminder. Our one starter this year, Shai Gilgeous-Alexander, starting for the West, starting over Steph Curry. Still crazy to me, but it's really, we're at that point where he's the best guard in the world right now. Unstoppable to guard, leading the league in total points and averaging the most steals per game in 2.2. Shai is just doing everything, keeping his team in the top 2 seeds in the West right now, and they're looking like they're going to have a favorable home court advantage in the playoffs this year, and I cannot wait to watch. To finish up on Shai, if you haven't, make sure you check out my Twitter. Make sure you check out my TikTok. Got a bunch of cool videos out, and I feel like Shai's videos are the best if I'm being honest. Next, we'll stay in the West. Devin Booker. Obviously, we knew Devin Booker was going to be an all-star. It was more so if he was able to get enough votes to be a starter. Unfortunately, there's just too much star power in the NBA, and Booker isn't on that S tier yet. But he's right there. One of the best scorers in the league. Teamed up with KD. A lot of people are kind of, writing off the Suns to go on a deep run in the playoffs with the lack of bench depth, with just the lack of guard play. I think at the end of the day, with that experience in KD, it's going to be tough to beat. And I think Devin Booker might be a better complement to KD than Kyrie was, because Kyrie needs the ball in his hands. Devin Booker does not. Of course, Booker is capable of bringing the ball up and, running the show when KD doesn't want to. Of course, Beal can also. It's more that I think the two of them are both such dangerous scorers and tougher to guard. Not that Kyrie's an easy guard. It's more so that Devin Booker is 6'7", and KD, is 7 foot. It's kind of like, I think this can really work out. I can see them upsetting some teams in the West. Obviously, seeding will be important. I don't really see them beating a really solid team like Denver, but who knows? Sacramento, Minnesota, Los Angeles, if they make it. I can see them beating any of these teams, even the Clippers. And I'm really looking forward to the top level play in our favorite sport, in NBA playoff basketball. But to speak on Devin Booker, let's just read off some of his numbers. 28.3 points a game, which is 6th in the league. 5 rebounds a game. 7.3 assists a game, which is 12th in the league. Bet you didn't know that. And he's also 8th in the league in minutes, 36.2. Devin Booker is having a great year, damn near averaging 30 a game, while dropping 7 assists a game also. You love to see it, and that transitions us to the same classmate, former teammate, Karl Anthony Towns. At the moment, Minnesota is sitting on top of the West. Of course, Anthony Edwards is the face of their team, but Karl Anthony Towns is a star as well, and Minnesota lands 2 All-Stars this year. And Karl Anthony Towns is back at the All-Star weekend. Right now, he's averaging 22.7 a game, 8.7 rebounds, 3 assists. With Anthony Edwards there, being the face of the team, being the face of the offense, what's that phrase called? The straw that stirs the drink? I don't know if that's the line. Karl Anthony Towns has so much less pressure on him. And with Rudy being a true center that can play next to Karl can be what he wants to be in a shooter. You can do that as a center, but it's not as efficient on the boards. Minnesota has figured out playing with 2 7-footers. If you want to give Karl Anthony Towns that half an inch, they can make it work, and defensively, it's only helping them. And Karl Anthony Towns has said it himself. He's the best big man shooter that has ever played the game. Not just currently active in the league. Not the best shooter to ever play in Minnesota that's a big man. No. The best big man shooter in NBA history. And that was such a bold statement. I believe that year he wasn't even an all-star. But it just shows the confidence. It shows what he's capable of. And we honestly are behind Cat. Because in this era especially, who's a better big man shooter? Dirk was pretty nice, but he wasn't pulling up from 3 as much as Karl Anthony Towns. That's why Dirk always had this narrative that he was a knockdown shooter from 3, because he would find himself on the top of the key open and knocking down shots. But let's be real, he's not having plays drawn up for him to pull up from 3. He's not dribbling the ball up the court and pulling up from 3 like Cat. And I'm looking forward to seeing Cat back in the All-Star weekend. I think in the NBA, there's a narrative that all these American big men are mid, but we have 2 Kentucky, 3 if you count Julius, who probably won't be playing. We'll get to that. We got 3 American Wildcat big man All-Stars, and you love to see it. To transfer over next, do we have anyone left in the West? Yes, we do. Anthony Davis, 9-time All-Star, back in the All-Star game. Anthony Davis is playing damn near MVP caliber basketball right now. Even though the Lakers aren't finishing with great outcomes, we already know the GM is going to make some things happen before this trade deadline, February 8th. the Lakers are going to have something new for them, something to give them a shot in the arm and go on a run. And there's no way that LeBron's not going to make the playoffs this year. With the play-in tournament now a factor, there's only more room for them to go on a run. And if LeBron finds himself in a play-in game tournament scenario, best believe he's not packing up early. He's here for the long run. And Anthony Davis is right there with him. Anthony Davis is taking the load of the minutes, the load of the responsibilities, and LeBron is there giving him the keys to the car. LeBron's riding passenger, and LeBron is cool with that, and he has said that publicly plenty of times. As long as their 2020 chip, Anthony Davis healthy is dangerous, and people seem to forget when he's healthy how much of a problem he is. And shout out to Anthony Davis as well, an NBA All Star this year. Next. Oh, let's get into his numbers. I'll pull up his numbers. Bad radio right now. I'm trying to be quick. Let's see where the Lakers play tomorrow. All right, cool. Anthony Davis. Right now, Anthony Davis is averaging 25 a game, 12.1 rebounds, which is fourth in the league, 2.3 in blocks per game, which is fifth in the league, and he's also averaging 4 assists a game. Don't sleep on Anthony Davis now. I'm really looking forward to seeing whatever goes down in LA. Whenever LeBron is on your team, you know you're going to be in the news. You know your team has the pressure on you. You have the national televised games, and we'll be covering the Lakers with Anthony Davis and Jared Vanderbilt. Switching over to the East, I have to start with Tyrese Maxey. Big ups to Tyrese Maxey. First time All-Star. Well deserved. With Harden leaving Philly this year, Tyrese Maxey took on the lead guard role. Took on having the ball in his hands majority of the game and is just flourishing. Early on to start the season, it was such a great start. He was in MVP talks. We knew that wasn't going to last. But it's just crazy to think that Tyrese Maxey was on those MVP leaderboard rankings at some point of this year. He made it to All-Star, and let's see what level he can go from here. We've seen young cats get All-Star votes early, like Booker, and we just see them go to another level. And I think Tyrese Maxey is one of these gym rats. He doesn't have a kid. He's not out partying and fooling around. He's got a good head on his shoulders, and I'm really looking forward to see what he can do to elevate his game even more so since becoming an All-Star. And we might as well speak on it now. It came out that Joel Embiid's injury was actually a torn meniscus. Not only is this going to take him out of MVP eligibility, it's really going to hurt Philly for the rest of the season. I mean, let's be real. When you take away the MVP off your team, you can only go so far. And they weren't one of those teams that were just so well put together, 10 to 12 deep, that they're going to be fine. They're going to struggle immediately. And side note, in one of my fantasy basketball leagues, I'm commissioner. It's a public league. I got a group of friends in there from Philly. And of course they're talking their talk. And prior to the NBA season starting, I made a bet with this one kid out of that group that Philly wouldn't be a top 3 seed this year. And of course, they have been all season. You have teams like Indiana, New York knocking on the door and right behind them at the moment. But it was looking shaky for sure. But now, with this Joel Embiid injury, it pretty much locks and solidifies this win for a bet. It's not about the bragging rights of the bet. It's actually about the money. It's a $500 bet. And originally, I wasn't trying to demean anyone when we made this bet. He said, name your price. And I said $500. I said $50. And he said, make it $500. And, I couldn't bow down. I believed that Miami, Indiana, Cleveland, New York, somebody could have squeezed into the 4 spot making Philly out of the top 3. And it's looking like a lock. And it's crazy because last week, my mans was talking that smack because they've been in the top 3 all season. I mean, I'm not saying he can't talk, but it's January at the time, right? Like, you sound dumb. And, I got in my bag. I was throwing shade at Embiid for ducking Jokic in Denver. Turns out he actually really was hurt, though, so it wasn't just a coincidence. It was just shady how he was active, and then 15 minutes prior to tip, all of a sudden, he wasn't playing. The team got fined for it. It's against the rules. Anyways, so rewind. I kind of set this story up a little bad. But anyways, last week, while Joel was just out, we knew nothing about his injury that we learned yesterday. I doubled down on our bet. I was like, I bet, do you want to add to our bet? And I go, I bet you Joel doesn't win MVP this year. And this wasn't me thinking, cryptically, like, hey, he's hurt. Like, easy money. I wish I can tell you that. But nah, I just genuinely believed Jokic was going to win it, if not somebody else, Luka. I didn't think they were going to give it to Embiid again. For whatever reason, him missing games, him sucking in the playoffs. I know it doesn't have to do with it, but I know so many voters last year regretted not giving it to Jokic for a 3rd season in a row, seeing how different night and day Joel is in the playoffs. Has yet to see an Eastern Conference Finals. It's kind of funny. The closest they got was in 2019 when Kawhi hit that crazy corner shot. Right? So we went from talking to Tyrese to talking about the Sixers to talking about Joel Embiid. But to finish off the story of the bet, we doubled down. I bet you 500 that Joel Embiid does not win MVP, on top of Philly not being a top 3 seed. So now, in real time, Joel Embiid is not going to be eligible for MVP with this injury. Obviously, he might miss the whole season. I mean, I'm not an injury expert. Regardless, I'm up 500 right now. I'm chilling. And even though technically Philly's the 3rd seed, which makes us even, we can look at it that way if you want. But the season's not over. That's why I'm looking at it as I'm already up 500. Now I just need the teams in the East to beat up on Philly when they play them. I already know Philly's going to go in a slump, right? They're still a good team, but with no Embiid, it's just a totally different identity. And now you're looking at Tyrese Maxey trying to put the team on his back. And it's going to be cool to watch. We're going to see some career nights from Tyrese this season with Joel being out. But I can't wait to give y'all the update once he officially sends me that bread. And it's funny because he was always mocking me that I wasn't going to pay him. That if he wins the fantasy league, he wasn't going to get paid for that either. It's funny. And we'll see if he's a man of his word and if he follows through. And it's going to suck if he doesn't. But I believe in karma. And if you're willing to throw around $500 and then a second $500 bet, you should have that money. And I'm definitely not going to poke the bear. I'm going to move humbly. And once Philly is officially not a top 3 seed, I'm not going to be, taking jabs at him. I'm just going to wait for it to be official. Sending him my Venmo, my Zelle, whatever he's rocking with. And we'll go from there. Next, Bam Adebayo. Man, that was such a long story. But it was worth it. It's gonna be a happy ending, I'm hoping. Next, Bam Adebayo. 3rd time All-Star. I love watching Bam play. He's such a great defender. He is now the official captain of Miami. Since UD is gone, who's been the captain there for years, the Miami native. It's a big deal for Bam to take this role, and he's the perfect person to be the face of the team, to be the leader, to be the captain. And I'm looking forward to seeing Miami go on a run. We've seen them just go on this bad losing streak. We just ended that streak. And now we're going to turn it up like we always do. And last year is a prime example. We were in 13th seed play-in game territory, and we ended up going to the finals. So I'm really not worried about Miami. I'm looking forward to seeing how our season turns around. Don't want to see Boston. That would suck, but we know we can beat them. We've done it before. However, they've beat us before in the playoff series as well. So I'm not about to act like that never happened. Milwaukee, I think, will be a disaster with Doc Rivers. I don't want to see them either, but if we're going to go on a run, we're going to have to see Boston and or Milwaukee. So bring it on. Those are the only teams I don't want to see. In the East, if it is possible to have them take each other out, that'll be perfect. But with Philly and Joel Embiid not being a factor no more, the East just got a lot easier. And I'm not afraid of the Knicks. All my Knicks fan friends just talking crazy. And it's funny. Good for them. They had a good January. But unfortunately, January means nothing. And it's all about the playoffs. And I can't wait to cover the Knicks' downfall. And while we're on that topic, our 7th cat, Julius Randle, 3rd-time All-Star, all with the Knicks. He has a shoulder injury right now, so it's looking like he won't be in the game, but he will still always have that 2023-2024 All-Star in his resume. The Knicks, without Julius, should still be fine. His injury shouldn't be too long, but he won't be ready to go for the All-Star game. And like I just said, looking forward to speaking on the Knicks, best believe.
Ya no me enojo contigo, solo observo y pienso, me decepcionó y me alejó más de ti, porque yo ya no quiero sufrir, quiero ser feliz.
Can't wait to cover that All-Star game. Didn't really have final thoughts on all of our guys, but to think that we have 7 representatives from UK, it just shows how next level our program really is. Because if you look across the nation at All-Stars, for college basketball teams represented, only one other team has more than 1 in. That's Duke. They only have 2, right? Jason Tatum and Kyrie, I believe. And they're both nice, for sure. We got 7. Kansas, Fresno State, San Diego State, Louisville, Georgia, Villanova, Cal, Davidson, Weber State, Iowa State, and Texas all just have 1, right? It's just next level. And this isn't the end for us. We got guys like De'Aaron Fox and Jamal Murray getting snubbed. I really thought De'Aaron Fox was a sure All-Star again this year. Didn't happen. Jamal Murray has yet to be an All-Star. When you think of him just coming off the NBA Finals and Denver still doing their thing, him being snubbed, it sucks. But at the end of the day, if Fox or De'Aaron were voted an All-Star, who knows? Maybe it snubs one of our other cats, right? Can't have all of them. But we did have 9 in contention this year. And who knows? Maybe we can get up to 9 one year. Let's shoot for 8 next year. If Anthony Davis is healthy, he'll be in there for sure. And De'Aaron Fox will hopefully not get snubbed next year. I think he's more of a sure thing than Jamal. But either way, we just got guys everywhere that are just hooping. And even though they aren't All-Stars, we still got guys that are worth covering and worth mentioning. And I failed to mention these guys yet. Let's do it real quick. Big shout outs to Ashton Hagans, Oscar Shibwe, and Skal Labissiere in being in the GLeague All Star game. Skal and Ashton in 1 actually led all voters, which is pretty cool that 2 Kentucky guys led. That has to be Big Blue Nation putting in them votes, right? Because let's be real, they're not the best players in the G League. I mean, they're top tier, especially Ashton, especially Oscar, rebounding-wise. It's the Big Blue Nation, baby, and you love to see it. I shared a post of Ashton Hagans, and he shared it on his story. I DM'd him a few videos when he played in Gainesville in 2019, and he replied back again. Big fan of Ashton Hagans, and I'm really hoping that some NBA team calls him up because he's been hooping, and we know he's a two-way player, and he's just working on his craft, and hopefully he gets his chance this season. We've made it to the Tennessee preview, and to be real with you, I've been dreading recording this part of the segment. Because I don't feel good about this game. One, I don't know how healthy DJ's going to be. Two, yeah, we're home. I should be more optimistic, but I'm not trying to lose at home again, right? I'm not advising you what to do with your money, especially if DJ is not playing. Please do not take Kentucky. I sound defeated in saying that, but I'm just being real with you. It's going to be a tough game. They're coming off a loss, but I'm really type nervous for this game. And let's compare the team's numbers from the season. We're averaging 10 more points than them, 88 versus 78. We're shooting 48.9 from the field. They're shooting 44. We're shooting 40% from deep. They're shooting 33. They're shooting 1 percentage better than us from the line. Pretty much 0.7 better, 75.1 opposed to 74.4. They average 1 more turnover than us. They average 1 more rebound than us. We average 1 more assist than them. We both average 8 steals. We average 1.5 more blocks. It's actually kind of even numbers-wise. But we put up better numbers scoring and shooting from deep and a field goal percentage. Right? They do have Dalton Connect, one of the Player of the Year candidates. But this is our chance, as mentioned last episode, for Antonio to really show that he is on that S tier of college players this year. That Zach Edey is not about to win Player of the Year again. No. I'm not going to let that happen. If we're able to protect home court, beat Tennessee, and Antonio outperforms Dalton, good things are going to happen. And obviously, Player of the Year means nothing. We want bigger and more important things like number 9. But Antonio, this will be big for him to help him rise in the draft. We already are predicting him to be drafted now, not being one of these summer league guys that gets a chance and show out. No. He's going to get a contract. He's going to get a 2-way deal at a minimum. And this is the game where Antonio can really make some money. If there is no DJ, we need 23 plus from you, Antonio. I know you can do it. We're going to figure out this rotation to kind of keep these guys from getting gassed with the combination of not having to play extra time and overtime. In the last 20 games versus Tennessee, we're 10-10 versus them. That's not over 5 years. That's probably over 3 years, including SEC conference play, maybe 3.5 seasons. Regardless, we shouldn't even be close to being this even with Tennessee. Their fan base is so toxic. We need to take care of business and protect home court. And, you know, it's a head scratcher making a prediction. If we do have DJ, I do predict us winning. I do predict us winning 91-85. But there's no DJ. It changes a lot. I still think we have a chance. But if I'm really being real, I don't see us winning without DJ. If I have to make a prediction, gun to my head, I would predict an 84-77 loss. And I know that's a big point swing, but I haven't predicted a score right yet. I'm just shooting here, right? There's no update on DJ's injury yet. We don't know what to expect. We have an 8:30 tip-off, and that could go later if the Duke-UNC game, lingers. It's going to be a great day to watch college basketball. And I'm antsy just thinking about it. Tomorrow's a big day, y'all. And I hope y'all tune in next week when we cover the game. And hopefully it's going to be a fun, good energy show. Because we've been recording too many losses this year. Unexpected losses as well. In Tennessee, if you look at their schedule and what they've accomplished so far, they lost to South Carolina just like us, but they were home and they lost by 4. We got blown out at home versus South Carolina. They beat Alabama by 20. They beat the Florida Gators by 19 at home. They beat Georgia by 6 away. They lost to Mississippi State away by 5. Probably their worst loss of the year. They beat Ole Miss by 16. Where's their other loss? They lost to UNC by 8 in November. There we go. They lost to Kansas the game prior by 9. 2 teams that we played great versus. Clearly we lost to Kansas. We should have won that game. If they're able to lose by 8 to UNC in November, if we're healthy, we should beat them. I know that was in November. They're a different team now. Dalton Connect's playing way better. I'm really looking forward to this matchup. And if Antonio's going to match up with him defensively, it's going to be a storyline to say the least. And hopefully Kentucky is on the right side of the outcome. Thank you so much for rocking with me for another episode of the Flexingtons. Make sure you check me out at the Flexingtons on everything besides X. It's at Richie Lanza. Looking forward to this game. Hopefully we got a DJ, y'all. It's going to be a close one, a battle. We'll see y'all next week. Let's go, Cats.